Today we're going to be talking about the number one mistake teachers often make when working with kids who visually function in phase 1 on the CVI range. Hi, I'm Diane Sheline. Welcome to Strategy to See, where I talk about quick tips, techniques, methods, and strategies to use with students and children who have cortical visual impairment. Today we're going to be talking about something that is really crucial and important to understand, and that is how to strictly control the sensory environment. We often hear that said, have you strictly controlled the sensory environment, especially when we're working with kids that are visually functioning in phase 1. And as I travel around and work with teachers across the nation, there's oftentimes the comment that I hear from teachers is, Diane, I've used all of your strategies, I've used your techniques, and I still can't get this child to visually attend to the target. My first question to them is always, tell me about the environment. Tell me about the auditory environment that they're in, the tactual environment that they're in, and the visual environment that they're in. Because unless you strictly control that multi-sensory input that's coming into them while they're trying to use vision, they're going to have a very hard time using vision. If you've watched some of my other videos, you've probably seen that I'm always in black. I have black behind me. I have black across the table. That's because black helps to make the target that I'm showing really pop. And it's important to think about that complexity of the array. I've mentioned that before, the complexity of the array when you're presenting a target. When you've got a student that's just beginning to use their vision, what's going to help them to get better at using their vision is visual plasticity. But in order for visual plasticity to work, kids actually have to use vision. So you've got to somehow figure out what is going to help them to begin to use their vision. And one of the key things is strictly controlling the sensory environment. And what does that mean when I say that? That means strictly controlling competing auditory input. That might be from a TV playing in the other room, noise from others' children yelling, a tractor or a lawnmower outside making noise. That's competing auditory input. Strictly controlling the sensory environment also means controlling tactual input. That means maybe something scratchy that's scratching the child's leg that they're trying to get at, or bumping and being jostled by other students in their environment. How about the visual, competing visual input? Pictures all around the classroom setting, bookcases full of books and different colors of different things. You have to almost put your head down where the child's head is and look what's in their field of view, and it needs to be blocked out in some way. So let's talk about how we can do that. I use collapsing boards quite often that I've covered in Velcro compatible fabric so I can hang different things from them. And you can easily do that with heavy cardboard and then cover it with Velcro compatible fabric. There's some on my website. There's a link on my website under recommended products if you want a good brand to order. You can also order from APH, has something called an InvisiBoard or an all-in-one board, and those block out a lot of that visual surrounding competing visual input. Oftentimes I go into homes to work with parents, and I ask them, show me what you do during playtime with your child. And one of the first things that they'll do is put out a multicolored, beautiful blanket to play on top of. Well, a multicolored blanket is going to cause that visual target to just disappear for the child. And so I will oftentimes just bring my black comforter and lay it down and show them the difference between that multicolored comforter that's down that causes the target to just disappear in all of the different multicolors that's in it. Again, remember that we're talking about competing visual complexity in the array. We want to make it as simple as possible so that target really stands out. One of the other things that I often use is just a black non-skid mat. You can order these very inexpensively from Amazon, and I really like them. You can wash them, and I put them down on the table or on reading stands if I'm propping something up, or on an all-in-one board from APH. I will often use a mat like this. Another mat that I use very, very often, and it's black on one side and it has grippy fabric on the other side, this is called a grill mate mat. I think it's for underneath a barbecue grill in your backyard, but it washes up beautifully, and it's also Velcro compatible, and you can stick Velcro items and targets right on it. I will often use just a black sheet, which is covering this table, and create some really good contrast between the target and the background. Be thinking about when you're presenting targets in the student's best field of view, and how you're going to get it up there into the student's field of view, and then how you might be manipulating it. If this student is just beginning to use vision, and it's a lot of hard work for that child to use vision, one of the things that's easiest for them to see is a continuous line. That's why we don't want a bunch of different colors in the target that we use. We want only one solid color to use on the target when a child is just beginning to use vision in phase 1. And so if you bring in your hand like this into the target because you're going to move it, and maybe you're touching the target, lots of times the student's not able to tell, what is the target that they're supposed to be looking at. Now you've got a different colored hand, I've got a ring on, I've got a watch on, my skin is a different color. Where does the target end and my hand begin? So be thinking about that, especially for those kids that maybe have a score of 1 to 2 on the CVI range. This is not going to work with an arm like this. One of the things that I usually do use is just a simple black cotton glove. You can often find them under flapper gloves on Amazon. But if you don't have a flapper glove, the next best thing is just to take a black sock. And I'd like to show you the difference that this makes when I cover up my ring, my watch, my different colored skin, and I cover it all the way up to my sleeve. And then if I need to move this or bring my hand in any way, it's not causing difficulties and distraction from the target itself. I'd like to leave you with one thought before I end this little video. One thing that I think that people often forget, and we oftentimes see with our students that are just beginning to use vision, they're oftentimes babies or toddlers, they might be using a pacifier. And a pacifier is a form of competing sensory input. It's oral tactile sensory input, and it's very satisfying to the child. So why are they going to, if they're sucking on a pacifier, why are they going to work very hard to look at your target? Another thing that I've seen very, very frequently is a child that maybe doesn't have a pacifier, but they suck on their hand. And if they're sucking on their hand or their fingers, again, that's another form of multisensory input that is going to distract them from using their vision to look at a target. So be aware of that when we talk about limiting competing sensory input. That's a big deal. Turning down the lights a little bit in a room, especially when you've got a lighted target, allows the items in the room to sort of be hidden. So think about turning down the lights when you're using a lighted target, moving to an area that is quiet, doesn't have that auditory input, maybe from other students or from a radio, and certainly limit all of those visual distractions that might be going on around the student. I hope that you've enjoyed the video for today, and see below if you would like to see links to the different products that I've talked about today, or a link to my website, or a link to my book. If you've enjoyed this video, head on over to my website, Strategy to See, where you can join on to the email list and you'll receive updates on when another video is going to be coming out. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.